Conservatives, true conservatives, never Trumpers, will be the real check on Donald Trump going forward, because even if Donald Trump wasn't of the left just isn't capable of it. Jay Caruso delivers the reality check for Trumplicans at Red State. That was on Monday. Now, I should point out that, being the check on Trump, check on Republicans. By the way, have you seen Paul Ryan's new budget? Let's suffice it to say, in the 10 projected years, the decade ahead, it does not cut a single solitary cent from Barack Obama's spending projections. And that doesn't even count Trump's hinted at $1 trillion infrastructure stimulus boondoggle. So, as Neil Stevens at Red State observed today, this is the clincher. This just proves that the party of Trump is just another bunch of tax and spend liberals, ladies and gentlemen. But remember, Trump is going to, you have to remember where we are in this process, in this new cycle, as it were. And where we are in this new cycle is Trump won. Trump's about to be sworn in 2 weeks and 2 days. And, presidents get some manner of honeymoon period, and when their party is also in the majority in Congress, then he's gonna get a lot of what he wants, assuming he can focus for any sustained length of time in order to make clear just exactly what those things are. And so, being a check is kind of, pointing out, standing against, being in opposition, pointing out his errors, pointing out when he's doing things wrong. Will it stop him? No, not until they have a chance to start blowing up in his face. And the faces of the GOP and Trumplicans, all the Recucklicans, the cucks who went along with him, and are going to go down with him. But it's not going to happen right away. So when we talk about being a check on Trump in 2017, it's kind of like, keep your powder dry, be in opposition, stand for what we believe in, because we are going to be vindicated. My fellow never-Trumpers, we are going to be vindicated. Now, it was reported that Donald Trump prefers Chuck Schumer to GOP leaders. Gee, there's a surprise. Kind of like how he prefers people who haven't been captured and turned into POWs. Such as Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell. Oh, I love it. This is a quote from the New York Post. Donald Trump told Democrat Senator and Senate Minority Leader Charles Chucky Schumer in a phone call he likes him more than his GOP brethren. House Speaker Paul Ryan and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, a source close to the transition team, said. During a recent phone call, the president-elect said to Schumer that he liked Schumer more than Ryan and McConnell because they both wanted him to lose. The source said, they are Republicans and Trump knows they didn't support him. Do you talk about petty and vindictive Trumplicans? But then we already knew this. That's one of the things I've been saying for the past year and a half. If Trump were to win, and he did, he's not going to make deals with Republicans. Why? Because he would have already beaten them. Hell, he took over their party. He's not going to listen to anything Ryan and McConnell have to say. He's going to make deals with his true friends like Chucky Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, who right after the election said, oh, we can work with President-elect Trump on his infrastructure stimulus plan. Yeah, common ground. Yeah, there's common ground. It's just not with Republicans. You see, Trump will officially become President Trump on January 20th. Until that time, people can only speculate as to, well, it's not speculation. We have a pretty good idea what Trump's going to do once he's sitting in the Oval Office. Well, he won't be in the Oval Office. He'll be in Trump Tower, but never mind. Actions always speak louder than words, and at some point Trump will put his cards on the table. Well, he already has been. That's known as his Twitter account. And when he does, conservatives in Congress and conservative activists have to be ready to push back when his agenda is not a conservative one, and it's not. Congress runs a risk if they choose to rubber stamp all of Trump's policies, leaving themselves open to primary challenges that have hurt the GOP in the past. Trump has hinted at $1 trillion, like as aforementioned, $1 trillion stimulus package and tariffs on imports. A GOP-controlled Congress wouldn't dare give a Democrat a $1 trillion stimulus package, nor would they entertain any thoughts of implementing tariffs on domestic imports if a Democrat president asked Congress to do it. So why should they if a quote-unquote Republican is in office? Conservative or Republican? Principled or tribalist? That is the essence of what we Never Trumpers have been saying from day one. You can't be both. If you're going to have principles, you can't support Donald Trump. If you're going to support Donald Trump, you got to throw out your principles. And which means that Trump supporters stand for nothing. Except whatever Trump says, well, that's what we support. Remember when Trump said, I could shoot somebody out here on Fifth Avenue and you people would still support me? I think he proved his point, don't you? If anything, Republicans should take a stronger stand against a member of their party, allegedly, who supports, well, I guess they're not un-Republican policies anymore, but they're definitely anti-conservative policies, on principle alone. Now, some conservatives are surprised and pleased with some of Trump's cabinet choices. Asking Tom Price to head the Department of Health and Human Services was one move in particular where most conservatives agree Trump made a fine choice, although Price wants to keep most of Obamacare, so your mileage may vary. Price is a medical doctor and has expertise in healthcare policy, which is, by populist standards, that's a bad thing, because you're not supposed to know a damn thing about whatever your portfolio is, because if you do know something about it, you're an insider and you're an elitist. Only if you're totally and utterly ignorant of your cabinet portfolio are you truly a citizen politician. Isn't that what Trump supporters have been saying? Isn't that what they said throughout the campaign? We love him because he's not a politician. The hell, he's not a politician. If you decide to run for president, if you run for any elective office, guess what? You're a politician. Oh, but he's never held elective office. Well, maybe he's not a very successful politician, but he's still a politician nonetheless. And Trump did win. So don't sit there and tell me he's not a politician. It will be the same for his other cabinet picks as well. What am I talking about? Well, Price, just like everybody else who goes to work for Trump, who sells out to Trump, is going to implement what Trump wants, not necessarily what he wants. That's the whole point. That was the whole, it always was, the weakness, the hole in the argument that, We need to get Trump elected to stop Hillary, and then we can surround him with conservative advisors who will steer him in the right direction. Bullshit! Remember, nobody controls Trump? Why do you think there was an expiration date on that little factoid? If nobody controlled Trump during the primaries, and nobody controlled Trump during the general election campaign, what makes you think anybody's going to control Trump once he becomes president of the United States? And remember, it doesn't matter how conservative his cabinet is. You know, Douglas V. Gibbs threw that at me recently. Well, look at all the conservatives he's appointing. That doesn't matter because Trump is not a conservative. I mean, if you're, let's think of it this way. If you take over, if you successfully engineer and pull off a hostile takeover of the Republican Party, and then you win the election like Trump did, and you're looking to make cabinet appointments, you got to staff the top posts in your administration, your incoming regime, and the Republican Party has been, up to now, the party of conservatism, then you almost can't help but appoint a lot of conservatives, right? So how much is that really saying? How much is that really saying? I mean, how many Democrats would be willing to serve in a Trump administration? They wouldn't be able to. It wouldn't be politically possible. No matter how much Trump wants to do that, which I have no doubt that he does, he couldn't get anybody across the aisle. If he was going to staff his administration with Republicans for the most part, then you know a lot of them are going to be conservatives. But that doesn't matter. That doesn't make Trump conservative. That's all he has to choose from. But they're not going to steer him anywhere. Trump is going to be president. He's going to be in charge. He's going to be the chief executive. Buck stops here. Which means that it mattered what Trump stood for. It mattered what Trump's background was. And it didn't matter what he said because he's a filthy, stinking liar. He's a New York liberal con man. That's how he's going to govern. So it doesn't matter who he surrounds himself with. Nobody's going to steer him anyplace. He's going to do what he's going to do. And it's not going to be conservative. It's going to be liberal. And it's, depending on the topic, depending on the policy area, it may even be dangerous. Activists, bloggers, and political commentators must also remain active when it comes to pushing back and reporting on Trump openly and honestly. The temptation to become the next Breitbart or Sean Hannity, gleefully going along with whatever Trump says, is certainly tempting regarding success in traffic or ratings, but it does nothing for conservatism, and some will continue to leave the party as others have already done. Holding up my hand. Now, Trump could have potential if he listened to people around him. If he talked with GOP leaders and understood what conservatives want. Well, then, hell, he could implement a very bold agenda. But you see, Trump doesn't listen. Trump is a narcissist. Trump is an egotist. Trump thinks he knows everything. He's incurious because he doesn't think he needs to learn because he knows everything. He doesn't listen to people. He's Trump. He's always right. And his personality cult just reinforces that. So he's not going to listen to people around him. He's not going to talk with GOP leaders. He could give a frog's fat leg what conservatives want. And so whatever agenda he implements, it isn't going to be bold, at least, from a conservative point of view. I mean, Trump has a decided tendency to be impetuous. Congressional leaders need to be aware that Trump can and has changed his mind on an issue seemingly overnight. And sometimes several times on the same debate stage in the same evening. You see, congressional Republicans and conservative activists and writers will have to stay on their toes. It does conservatism and the GOP no good when they're the ones covering for other Republicans or making excuses for Trump when there's not a chance in blistering hell that they'd allow the same to happen if it was President Hillary Rodham Clinton. This year will be a big test. Let's see if congressional GOP leaders and conservative activists are up to the challenge. And in the words of Gul Dukat, I look forward to it. Excellent case in point, ladies and gentlemen. Jim Garrity it's in his Morning Jolt newsletter. Hits my inbox each and every morning. I guess we're just not going to make a fuss about that. Now, remember throughout the summer when Republicans had great fun counting the number of days it had been since Democrat presidential candidate Hillary Rodham Clinton had held a press conference? The Republican National Committee had fun pointing this out again and again and again. Hell, Donald Trump had fun pointing this out. Town Hall, Independent Journal Review, yeah, even Garrity noted it as well. When the networks didn't make a fuss, newsbusters called them out on it. And rightly so. Well, President-elect Trump hasn't held a press conference since before the election. Since July 27th, in fact. Which, in case you're wondering, that's 35, 65, 96, 126, 161 days since the last Trump press conference. And you know what? And I know this is going to be a shock to all of you. You don't see many Republicans complaining about it, do you? Well, I guess he's their guy now, so they're just not going to make a fuss about that. Yesterday, Trump's office announced a presser for January 11th, a week from today. At this press conference, if you will, Trump is expected to give an update on how his separation from his vast personal financial empire is progressing. On November 30th, he tweeted, quote, "Legal documents are being drafted which take me completely out of business operations. The presidency is a far more important task." Close quote. Well, good. Republicans spent a lot of time in the past few years arguing that the vast financial donations to the Clinton Foundation from private donors in foreign countries presented a massive conflict of interest, which they definitely did. We wanted to cross-check every massive donation against every decision Mrs. Clinton had made as Commissar of State, and we found plenty of reasons to be suspicious. But you haven't heard many Republicans demanding a full separation of President Trump from the Trump businesses, have you? You really haven't heard any complaining about the Kuwaiti, Bahraini, or Azerbaijani embassies booking events at Trump's new Washington hotel, and that backdoor way of a foreign government putting money into Trump's pocket. I guess Kuwaiti money is only bothersome when it ends up at the Clinton Foundation. But, I guess he's their guy now, so they're just not going to make a fuss about it. After promising to release his tax returns several times as a candidate, and then not doing so, President-elect may not file any more financial disclosures than legally required. president-elect is not required to file the annual disclosure until 2018, but the past several presidents have filed in the spring after their inaugurations, and then every year in office from then on as a show of openness. Trump's transition team did not respond to inquiries about whether he plans to follow that example. You know, Republicans would have been fine with that kind of delay from Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, or Joe Biden, right? I mean, those financial disclosure forms were key to showcasing the pay-for-play allegations to the Clinton Foundation. But I guess he's their guy now, and so they're just not going to make a fuss about that. Back during the campaign, we said a temporary embrace of Julian Assange was dangerous for Republicans. We pointed out Assange's deeply anti-American ideology and his exposure of Afghan informers to the U.S. military. Silly me for thinking the embrace would be temporary. Kellyanne Conway says we should pay significant attention to what Assange says, and Sarah Palin is publicly apologizing to him. Well, I guess Trump is their guy now, and they're just not going to make a fuss about that. You know, there must have been some memo that we didn't get announcing that Republicans don't care about press conferences, don't care about tax returns, don't care about payments for foreign governments, don't care about financial disclosure, or could care less about Julian Assange leaking classified information anymore. Or some revision emphasizing that they only care about these things when Democrats are involved. As noted yesterday, Mary Barra is the CEO and longtime high-ranking executive of General Motors, a taxpayer-saved company once reviled by conservatives as Government Motors. She was saluted at the State of the Union by Barack Obama, and in March, Hillary Clinton campaign chair John Podesta sent the candidate a first cut of people to consider for VP, a list of 39 names that included Barra. Barra's on Trump's economic advisory panel now. Oh, but I guess she's your gal now, so we're just not going to make a fuss about that either.